Hi, I'm Peter, and this is the fourth video in the Microbit Made Easy series from Engineering Wonder. In this video, I'm going to teach you about conditional statements and how to use them when you program your microbit. If you don't have a microbit, you can get one at the Engineering Wonder store at store.engineeringwonder.show. If you like this video or learn something from it, be sure to gently hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. All right, let's get into it. A conditional statement is a decision step in a program. It tells the computer if this happens, then do this. Otherwise, do something else. A conditional statement can be called an if-then statement because of its logic. If this happens, then do this. It is also called a logic statement because it uses logic to make a decision on what to do next. An example of a conditional statement is a button. If a button is pressed, then do this. If it's not pressed, then do nothing. These statements are very important to programming because it allows different outcomes depending on a condition. I want to show you how to write two simple programs using conditional statements. Remember that heartbeat we made in the last video? Let's make it so the heart beats 5 times when the A button is pressed. We'll combine a conditional statement with a loop. First, open your browser and go to makecode.microbit.org. Sign in if you're not already signed in, and we'll start a new project. We'll name this project Heartbeat 2 and click Create. We want to use the A button to beat our heart 5 times, and a button is an input because you're giving information to the microcontroller. So go into the toolbox section and click on Input and drag out on A button pressed. Now we don't need on start, we'll get rid of that. We don't need forever, we'll get rid of that to clear our screen. And we want the heartbeat to beat 5 times. So we need a heartbeat. So we're going to take a couple of these show icon blocks here. And remember, we need a big heart and a small heart to create our heartbeat animation. So if we press A now, you'll see our heart beats once. And we want it to beat 5 times. And remember, in our last video, we talked about loops. So go into the loop section and grab the repeat loop and put it in the A button pressed block. Then take your heartbeat and put it inside there. And we want it to beat 5 times, not 4. So change that number to 5 times. And then let's see what that does. Press the A button in the simulator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the small heart is still on there, so let's go back into basic and grab the clear screen block and put that at the end of the on button A pressed block. This is what happens when the A button is pressed. When the A button is pressed, it goes inside of the A button pressed block. Then it immediately goes into the first thing, which is the repeat loop. And then it repeats what's inside of this loop 5 times because we told it 5 times. And it's going to do them in order, or it's going to do them in sequence. So it's going to do this first, then repeat, go back to the top, this, and it's going to do that 5 times. After it's done doing that 5 times, it's going to come out of the repeat block and clear the screen. After it clears the screen, it's going to come out of the on A button press block and wait for a new instruction. So let's run that and see what it looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and clear. Perfect. You did it. That's exactly what we want our program to do. If you want to see what it looks like on your actual microbit, go ahead and download the code here and plug in your microbit to the micro USB cable. This end goes into your computer, and grab the microbit hex file and drag it to microbit. It will load. Once it's done loading, you can unplug your microbit if you would like and put your battery pack in, and every time you press the A button, you'll get the heart beating 5 times. Let's move on and make our next project. I want to turn my microbit into a night light. So here's what I want to happen. When the light gets dim enough, when it gets dark enough, I want the LED display to turn on and brighten up the room. And if it's bright out, I don't want the LED display on. So let's go into MakeCode and start a new project, and we'll call this Nightlight. and click create. So we want our lights to come on if it gets dark out. We just said a conditional statement, a logic statement. If something happens, if it gets dark out, then turn on our lights. Just describing your project out loud like that can help you figure out what code you need. So we need an if-then statement. And an if-then statement is a logic statement. So go into the logic section and you'll find your if-then statements right here. So go ahead and grab one out and put it into your forever loop. We don't need the onStart. We'll get rid of that for now. We put it in the forever loop because we want the microbit to check constantly if our condition is true or false. So this is how if statements work. It's going to check if the first if statement is true. If it is, it'll run what's inside. And then it's not going to check anything after that. It'll jump out of the if statement. We can add more if statements in as well to check if things are true. So if this is not true, it'll move on to the next one. If this is not true, it'll move on to the next one. If this is not true, it'll move on to the last one, which is the else statement. It will always run this section of code when everything else that came before it isn't triggered or isn't true in this case. So that's why it's called an else. So if everything else isn't run, this will be run. Okay, so we don't need so many if statements for this project. We do need the else statement. Let's break down the project a little more. We need to be able to measure the light in the room so the microbit knows when the light gets below a certain level. When that happens, we want it to turn on lights. See how we already used an if statement when we described our project? We need a way to measure light. A sensor that measures something is giving information to the microbit, so it's an input. It's inputting information into the microbit. That is why a sensor is an input. So let's go over to our input section here and look for something that can help us. Let's see, we need something that measures light. Oh, look at this, light level. So let's grab that and take it out of there and into our workspace. This block of code will return a number depending on how bright it is. It will return 0 if it's really dark or pitch black out, and it will return 255 if it's really bright in the room. So it'll return a number anywhere from 0 to 255. 0 being dark, pitch black, 255 is the highest brightness it can measure. Next, we need a way to compare the light level number from the sensor with a number that we choose. The number that we choose will be the level in which the LEDs will turn on. That means we need to compare two numbers. So I saw some comparison blocks in the logic section. So let's go into the logic section and yep, there they are, the comparison blocks. Let's drag one out of there and put it in our workspace. And we want to compare the light level with a number. So take the light level and put it in one side of the comparison. And then if you click here, you have a bunch of operators here. You have equals, not equals, less than, equal to, greater than or equal to. We want the light level, the lights to turn on when it's below a certain number. So let's just choose the less than or equal to, and let's choose 50 for this. And drag that comparison right into our if statement. So let's look at what we have here so far. If the light level is less than or equal to 50, then do what's inside of here. So if it's less than, we want our lights to turn on. So go into the basic toolbox and grab the show LEDs and put that right in the if then statement there and turn on all of the LEDs. Let's see what it looks like in the simulator. You can see that there's a light level here that appears when you're using the light level block. And you can choose how bright it is you want to simulate. 255 is the brightest, remember, 0 is dark. So let's see what happens when it goes below 50. It turns on. That's fantastic. Now let's see what happens when it goes above 50. Nothing. It stays on. Remember, we don't want the lights on if the light level is bright out, so we can conserve energy. This is where the else statement. So we only want the lights to turn on if the light level is less than or equal to 50. For everything else, we want the lights to turn off. So click into the basic section here and grab the clear screen and put that in the else block. And let's try it again on the simulator. So we go high. Let's go below 50. Oh, turns on. And if it goes back above 50, turns off. That is perfect. That is exactly what we want. Let's load it on our microbit. Go over here and click the download button, and it will download your hex file. Grab your microbit, connect your micro USB cable to it, and plug this into your computer. Then we need to find it in our downloads folder. Here's the nightlight, and drag it onto your microbit, and it will load on there. And once it's done loading on your microbit, you can unplug it or leave it plugged in to test it. I'm going to use my battery pack so I can test it up here with you guys. All right. So it has immediately turned on. I'm going to turn on more lights in my office. Right now I just have my studio lights on and my backdrop lights, but we need to see if this works. So lights are on because it's a little dark in here. And when the lights come on, it turns off. Let's try it again. And the lights come on. We have just created our very own nightlight. And that's how you use conditional statements to create projects with more than one outcome. In the next video, I'm going to teach you about variables and how to use them when you code your microbit.